Let me take these off first of all. Peace and Black Power families. Brother Agyei Tyehimba from Harlem Liberation School, where we teach Black people to wake up, clean up, and stand up. The three-part outline that was articulated by Brother Malcolm X. May he rest in peace and power, along with Dr. Betty Shabazz. This particular broadcast or video is prompted by a question and a comment that I believe it's a brother left on our YouTube channel in response to the video I did on saying that we need an independent Black political party. This brother, I think his name is E-Bug Go-Go 291, wrote this. Brother, if you think keeping Trump out of office is the most important goal, then why not just vote for Kamala, and become Democrats in perpetuity? Then he says it's a genuine question. So I think he's telling me he's not being sarcastic. It's an actual question. And I responded that I would do a brief video to address it because I think that's a good question. I think that's a question that we should be addressing. That's an intelligent question. It's a type of question that opens up the type of conversations we need to have to get us where we need to be politically. So let me say this. Let me start here. Donald Trump represents an age-old archetype of racist, sexist, xenophobic white man who's bent on power, who will do anything to get power, who is reckless with his mouth, his speech, who is disrespectful and insulting to people. And the only people that would follow a demagogue, an autocrat, and a blatant narcissist who's intellectually inept and incompetent at that would be people who buy into the whole white racial concept of they're superior because of their phenotype. This biological determinism crap that because they're Caucasian, they somehow are superior to other people, which we know is not true. Because if that was the case, it wouldn't be so many white people drug addicted. It wouldn't be so many white people getting social services from the federal government. It wouldn't be so many white people that are homeless. It wouldn't be so many white people, right, trying to imitate and in some cases steal different elements of Black culture. If white people were superior, they would have no need to do that. So we know that that's not true. But the only people that would support a Donald Trump would be people that to whom he speaks to their interests, right? So let's say that Donald Trump is not necessarily the only a target we're aiming at here. It just so happens that he's the lightning rod. He's the face of our target. You know, as a community organizer and a person that teaches leadership skills and teaches people how to protest. If you're going to protest, how you do it effectively so you win. We tell people never, if you're going against some institution, you have to frame it for your people and the organization and the community. You can't say, oh, we're going against so-and-so hospital. You got to say, yeah, we're going against so-and-so hospital, but you got to put a face on that hospital, family. You got to connect that hospital to who? The CEO of that hospital. If you're going against a police precinct, you don't just say the so-and-so number precinct. You say we're going at the police sergeant or commissioner. You give that invisible institution a face. You give people something to aim at, right? You personalize it politically. You also put pressure on that individual in power by naming them as the target. So let me just first clarify. For me, I can speak for me. When I'm banging on Donald Trump and I'm criticizing, I'm very clear. You look like 50. Okay. I'm very clear that Donald Trump is just the target. He's the face we're putting on the target for me, since I was maybe 13 years old, my target has been oppression. The target has been something like white supremacy. The target has been trying to liberate black people, trying to protect black people, trying to make sure our kids have a quality education and that we are in safe communities that are viable, that we have viable economic engines. So when I'm banging on, and when a lot of people banging on Trump, they know it's not just Trump. There's people that came before Trump that will come after Trump that have his similar politics that just don't express it quite as sarcastically or frequently or sensationally as he does. He just represents a type of a politic, right? Okay, so let me just say that. So the brother says, if you think keeping Trump out of office is the most important goal, so let me stop there. Keeping Trump out of office in the overall scheme of things is not so bold. It's intelligent. And that's not the most important goal here. For those of you black folk or people, so-called people of color who are watching this, who are integrationists, who believe that America is a great country and we can make it greater and we just got to work together. For you, the most important goal is a series of reforms legislatively, reforms in the government, reforms in social services, reforms in police departments, all these different things. If you're a nationalist and Pan-Africanist like me, the most important goal is sovereignty and self-determination and having a place we can call our own in which we are self-governing. Where we have our own institutions, our own holidays, our own, we might say, how would I frame this? Our own military, our own territory. So first, let me say I'm not an integrationist. So for me, who's in office, who's not in office, that's relative. It depends on who we're talking about at any given time. Right now, since Trump is making statements and seems to be heading in a fascist direction, I would think anybody living in this country who's a black person, whether they are nationalists and Pan-Africanists or they're integrationists and accommodationists, would say we need to keep him out of office. That's common sense. That doesn't take a nuclear physicist to figure that out, right? So that's not about it's the most important goal, but it means with respect to the immediate goals we have. You have those short-term goals and those intermediate goals and those long-term goals. Immediately speaking, unless you are cool with this country becoming a formally, officially fascist country, it's in your best interest to make sure that Trump is not in office. It's just common sense. And that's even if you are, like I said, if you are non-violent, the white man is our best friend. I love this country, and we bled for this country, and it's our country too. And if you come from that, even if you're coming from that political stratum as a black person, you should still say, I don't want Trump in office. Right? Okay. That's the first thing. Then the brother goes on to say, then why not just vote for Kamala and become Democrats in perpetuity? So I think that the brother misinterprets what I say. There's strategy and there's tactics. The strategy is your overall blueprint from here to point B. Your destination being a victorious campaign or what have you. Right? Your tactics are the specific actions, the specific things you do to fulfill that roadmap of a strategy. So as a tactic, as a general strategy, it makes sense. If you've read Project 2025 and you're familiar with what the Heritage Foundation is pushing, what they're trying to get the next president, assuming it's a Republican president, what they're trying to get that Republican administration to do is definitely fascist. There's no way around it. And you can look that up for yourself. Type in Project 2025. You can read the whole book. It's essentially a book for yourself. They're not hiding it. They're very clear. This is what we aim to do if we get in power. That doesn't mean the president has to follow it or his administration or her administration, but it does mean that this is what they are giving the president. They're feeding this to the president. Immediately speaking, family, yes, unless you're cool with this country being run by a group of fascists who aim to take all power away from the three branches of government and centralize it with just the president, making it essentially a dictatorship, unless you're cool with all those government jobs being snatched, with government jobs no longer being based on tests and competence and what you know, but based on your loyalty to the party, right? That's not cool, family. Now you're getting people that's getting positions just because they're loyalists to the president. That's not what we want. Unless you're cool with pharmaceutical companies being able to charge whatever they want for medications, unless you're cool with black people and brown people not being able to say, I've been discriminated against legitimately. In a sexist way, I've been discriminated against legitimately, in a racist way, because they have stripped the law of the disparate intent clause. Then yeah, we don't want Trump in office. And you really don't have to listen to me or anyone else. You know, you got a few people on here saying what they got to say. Yo, you know, I'm not a person that just goes on, you know, I have integrity. I don't go on people's channels or on their things and just talk a bunch of talk. I actually consume content. I actually take time out and curate and produce content. I don't have time to go back and forth with people. So any of you watching, listening, I assume you're intelligent enough to come to your own determinations, right? Listen, all you gotta do, listen to his speeches. Look at the executive orders he signed as soon as he got into office last time, right? Okay, that's the thing. The next thing is this. You don't have to necessarily, as a black person, and that's who I'm talking to, you don't necessarily have to be in love with Kamala. Kamala, I may be pronouncing her name incorrectly. If so, I apologize to our sister. You may not agree with all of her politics. Of course, if you're looking for the perfect candidate who has no blemish on the record, then you are insane. No such candidate exists. Everyone has a history. Everyone did things politically that they felt they had to do, right? Made deals they felt they had to make. And I assume she's one of them, like any other politician. But it's not really about her so much as it is she's not him. She's not coming with this type of political baggage and agenda that he's coming with. And you've heard the cliche, the lesser of two evils, so much, but this really is a good example of the lesser of two evils. People are mad at her because of her former background as a prosecutor, and they say that she put a lot of people in jail, and that may be true. But I want you, if you put her on a scale next to Trump, what he did and what he's talking about doing, and don't forget that this is the only president, to my knowledge, that called for, promoted, incited, and then sat idly by and did nothing to stop an attack on the Capitol building in D.C., a sitting president. So technically, not only is he a felon 30-something times over from the case of New York, but he's also a traitor to his own country. I mean, he shouldn't even be allowed to run for anything. He's a traitor. And in most countries, traitors have two forms of punishment. That's imprisonment or death. But that's another story. Now, so that said, the goal here is not necessarily we in love with Kamala either, but it's that the presumption is, and we could be wrong about this, the presumption is she's not going to be anywhere near as bad as Trump. And unlike Donald Trump, she has a lot of experience as an executive, a lot of experience running large-scale institutions, a lot of experience supervising and being an executive in a way, an administrator in a way that Trump really does not. And she's done it successfully, according to those she worked for and those she worked with. Whereas he is a person who's run a bunch of failed businesses. He was born with the golden spoon in his mouth. His daddy did most of that work. He inherited that and blew most of that money and was bankrupt many times over and was lying with his business and dishonest with his business practices. So he didn't even do that well, right? I love it. One guy says, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Trump. Wait. Shit. One guy says, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Trump. That's funny. Thank you for the comedy, man. I appreciate you. We need some comedy in times like this. All right. So again, I'm responding to this comment in this other video. Why not just vote for Kamala and be Democrats in perpetuity? Well, of course, you know, I don't support necessarily the Democratic or Republican Party. They both have been throughout the years pretty racist in some of their policies. Remember that a lot of things have changed, right? Now, back in Civil War times, or post-Civil War times, the Republican Party was considered the party for for freedmen, they call them, the newly freed people, right? Black people, right? So black people, because the people running on the Republican ticket were against slavery. So black people saw the Republican Party as their party, right? So that's important you know that. And so a lot of black people in those times, and maybe 40, 50, 70 years out, were supporters of the Republican Party, because the Republican Party was seen as the party that what? Was against slavery, and through Abraham Lincoln, supposedly ended slavery. So that's something we need to understand. It was only maybe, I'm going to say, around the modern civil rights movement, 50s, 60s, when I'm sorry. It was in World War II when Franklin Delano Roosevelt came. And in response to the Great Depression and all these people unemployed, and, you know, black people really messed up during that time, that he promoted all these social programs to help a lot of the American citizens get on their feet. And black people, a lot of black people went and switched to the Democratic Party because of Roosevelt, and because they felt that his programs spoke to them, resonated with them, and helped them to survive during a very tough time, right? And then it switched again, because now in the modern civil rights movement, 50s, 60s, right? That switched again. So don't get too caught up in the party. Politics can change over time, right? It can change over time. So just think about it. If you were to tell the average 20-year-old who's a black conscious type, right, that the Democratic Party was the party that was pro-slavery and the Republican Party was the party that was anti-slavery, and that black people supported the Republican Party, they would look at you like you were crazy, because they wouldn't know that history. They wouldn't know the significant change that has occurred in the politics of these parties, right? And so what happened is the Republican Party changed their politics, speaking now to an angry white Southern, primarily white Southern male demographic that felt that they were the descendants of the Confederates that lost the Civil War, and they wanted to get the country back. And they started speaking to those disgruntled white folk, and racist, if we can be honest, white folk. And that is so that they can get their numbers back up. And since then, the Republican Party has been associated with kind of a, if not a straight up racist, certainly a white conservative politic, and kind of an anti-social uplift politics, and kind of a let's bust up the unions politics, and kind of a Let's have wars on drugs that are really wars on Black and Latino people politics. That's all fact. Okay, so this, for me, it's not about supporting a party. It's about the survival of my people, man. That's it. And right now, based on what the way the chessboard is laid out, the way the pieces are set up on this chessboard in the United States right now, in this moment, in space and time, the smart thing for Black people to do immediately is to make sure Donald Trump does not get in office. So I'm going to ask that question straight up. We should make sure he does not get in office. Absolutely. That's just common sense. If that means voting for Kamala or whoever is his most the opponent that has the greatest chance to beat him, then that's what that means. Now, after that's done, that doesn't mean we have celebrations and parades and the work is over, because whoever's in office, we got to put fire under their behind, and we should have a Black national agenda with healthcare, education, labor, economics, contracting. All of that should be involved, that we are constantly pushing upon the president and the administration to make sure that we get certain concessions. But remember, because that's how politics works. Basically, you fund the candidate. Well, really, what powerful communities do is they vet the candidates they want. They vet the candidates they want. They have an agenda. They vet the candidates they want who will subscribe to their agenda and who will promote this agenda. And that the agenda is what they use to hold people accountable. The agenda is how they decide who is my friend and who is my foe. The agenda is how they decide who is the ally, who is not. We have not done that in recent time. We have not said, as a Black community, this is our agenda. These are the 7 or 20 or whatever many things we want to see done on our behalf. And if you want our vote, whether you're a councilman, an assembly person, a council person, on Congress, you have to meet this agenda. You have to promote this agenda. If you don't promote this agenda, we're not voting for you, straight like that. But if you do, we not only will support you and vote for you, we will raise money for you, all of that, right? We haven't done that. And because we have no political party, what happens is we are in the precarious position of being forced to choose from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, both of which parties have chosen or seem to historically do what's typically best for them, right? Because if that's not true, then the Republican Party would have never went retrograde, reactionary, and become white male racist party. It would have remained an anti-slavery party and a pro-Black party. But it didn't. It did what was best for them and their political interests at the time. Showing us we can't trust parties, particularly theirs. So the video I made at that time was really saying that we need our independent Black political party, and I still say that. I'll say that even if Kamala wins and does a great job, I'm still going to say that's good, but we still need an independent Black political party, right? Then he says, should we be Democrats in perpetuity? Well, I'm a nationalist Pan-Africanist. So no, we should not be any party in perpetuity, because perpetuity means forever. And if marriages can break up, if corporations can break up because people grow apart, people have different politics, that means we can't be married to a political party. We have to be very much transactional with political parties. In other words, what have you done for me? What are you going to do for me? What are you doing for me? Those are the questions with respect to political parties. We're not married, and if they can't answer those questions in ways that are satisfactory to us, then we don't support them. That's just point blank. I don't know what you were taught in school, but I've been a social studies teacher, professor of history, American history, for many years. I'm not one of these people that gets on people's videos and trolls and hasn't read no books, hasn't written anything, hasn't studied nothing. The YouTube scholar generation. Now, I'm not part of that generation, man. I've actually read books and read the footnotes and followed those footnotes, read the bibliography and read the books in the bibliography, right? So you can't pull that over here. And that's another thing I want to talk about. Even though I don't support the Democratic Party or Republican Party or personalities in it per se, I'm looking at it more as a political tactic to keep Trump out. In the meantime, we need to still be working on Black sovereignty and nationhood and self-determination, period. I do want to say this. I do not approve of the way that they are attacking this sister, Kamala Harris. And I want you to notice that they're trying to say there's always this thing with us. We're unqualified. We got over on affirmative action, you know. You know what I mean? And the truth is, this woman, if we want to talk about qualifications, like white people shouldn't even want to bring up qualifications in this discussion because you look ridiculous talking about qualifications. And you talking about Trump? You think he's qualified? What qualifies him to be president of the United States? Okay, he had a really good, a very successful reality show. He's firing people and hiring people. He ran a bunch of failed businesses, most of which he inherited from his daddy. He's not a self-made man. He's a man that was born into wealth. So, no, Kamala Harris, whatever you think of her politics, she can at least say on her resume that she was a prosecutor for the largest state in the country, California. She can say lawyer. She can say that she was a congressperson. She can say she was a vice president of the country. And there's, I'm sure, many more accolades. But the point is, she is qualified now. Whether we agree with her politics, whether she'll do a good job or not, we can't predict that. But we don't ever want to y'all don't even want to open your mouth to say qualified, because that candidate, the red-haired dude, orange-haired dude, is nowhere near qualified to run a country. So we need to just leave that alone. All right? That's how we know people are either racist or completely ignorant and backwards. And that in this country, unfortunately, is full of both. Ignorant people and racist people. Right? So I hope I answered the brother's question. And that's really all I have to say. All of y'all who troll, just know I done been through so much stuff in my life that your little statements mean nothing here, man. It means nothing. It's just words. And real men and women don't try to be internet gangsters. No, real men and women don't do the little snide comments because they know I can't come up and sneak up on you and see you face to face. We don't do that. Have integrity. And no matter what you say, my political, what I'm saying is going to stay the same. It's going to stay the same. All right? For all y'all who are intelligent and want to hear opinions, whether you disagree with them or not, that are actually make sense, thank you for coming to the channel. The rest of you have a beautiful day. Peace. Black power.